You're listening to the Telltale Channel. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. If you guys are unfamiliar, this is Kerr, and she is absolutely off her rocker, brother. Seriously. She is, I don't even know what word to use. Schmoobly gong? That feels right. Listen to what she said. She, for real, said she has a picture of a demon and like an actual picture of them being dragged away by hosts in heaven or whatever. And she said that before, like, okay, you got a picture of a demon, right? She showed us the picture of a demon. Seriously. She actually showed it. Check this out.
The other thing that happened was I've got some really wild-looking hosts. They're creatures. Many of them are creatures. For the army, they're creatures. That means
they're like angels.
They don't look like a human being. They could look like a person, but they have like 8 eyes around their head, or a band around their head with eyes. They can see the enemy no matter where they stand. They're made out of light. They come in little pieces, and they come together as one big being, and they're fierce, and then they go attack the enemy. And
that's
one day I'll probably not do a book, but a movie.
She is so incredibly full of dude. Oh my God. I watched this whole thing. If you want to see it, it's on my Unfiltered channel, but I picked out the best parts here.
I'll probably do a movie. He wants me to produce movies too. But
he being God, because he talks to her, you see.
But this one looks like a wild Yeti. He is his hair sticks out everywhere. He is fierce and he's yelling, and he has a big staff, and now this is getting way out there.
No, I'm in. Go on.
I want you to share because it's so interesting
spirit,
to know what you see.
Whether angelic or the demonic, they can compact themselves. Okay, so the jet streams. Take a picture, zoom in, and see how many faces you see. Heads with faces.
The jet stream. She says angels are in the jet stream battling with demons.
That is the angelic. They ride in them to go to different places. So this being had captured these demonics.
If you're not familiar with jet streams, it's like this corridor when you get high up enough above the earth that has high speed winds. And it is where the jets fly because the wind is, makes it easier for them to move and all that stuff.
And they were on this big staff, and you can actually see their heads on it.
What?
That doesn't mean it was only their head. That means that they were compacted and stuck on that staff.
Yes.
He was taking them up to the courtroom of heaven.
The courtroom of heaven. And this poor gullible fool on the left is buying every last word. I love this, dude. This is so ridiculous. This isn't a nobody, by the way. She is a Trump theologist. She's incredibly influential in the Trump theology realm, if you will. She writes the curriculum for schools and stuff like that. She's very, very important in this evangelical world.
And everyone, as soon as we're done filming today in the sunshine, gonna go outside and zoom into the jet stream. I guarantee it, because you'll be able to see the faces.
It doesn't even have to be a jet stream. Sometimes it's a beams of light. If you see strange ways the light is put in the sky. It could be like circles like this, not like a whirlwind, but just like circles in the sky, or just shafts of light coming from one big orb.
Okay, this is starting to add up now, right? We can see I can see what she's doing here. She's about to show us a picture of a cloud, isn't she?
Yeah.
If you zoom in on that, you're going to see the heads of the hosts that are in those orbs. Hosts travel in the orbs.
Wow.
I got pictures with lots of orbs. I'll have to send you that too. I'll start looking for them. But no, these are very specific. I have a picture of one riding on a Aragon out at the beach who was sent to protect me.
What's an Aragon? I'm sorry, I don't know.
You would call it a dragon.
Again, these people seem like jokes, right? But they're 100% for real. She talks about these pictures that she takes all the time of heavenly hosts and of demons being dragged off in chains, and it happens right above her house all the time. And she is a heavenly photographer. God has ordained her to be heaven's photographer or whatever nonsense. Oh my God.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's like the behemoth. The father talks about his behemoth that's got scales. Okay. He's got scales. He's got smoke in his nose. Those are the fathers. The father made them. Okay. They made them. He calls Satan an old dragon because he has no teeth left. That's why he calls him that.
Satan doesn't have any teeth? Is he subject to decay like mortals?
But the father has an Aragon. And I was taught and told when from Michael's headquarters, they come in there, they get the host, and they ride them into battle. I've got a picture of that.
They ride dragons into battles, okay?
Also.
Wow. That's
wow.
And the thing about his Office Max, where I'd go get them printed, freaks out.
That'd be a great witnessing tool.
Office Max freaks out because they've definitely never seen anything that's been photoshopped and then printed on their services, right? Nobody has ever tried to print photoshopped stuff before. It must be real if there's a picture of it.
They can take the pictures on my stuff. They know I didn't Photoshop that.
How do they know that?
They know I took it with my camera, and I don't even know how to Photoshop people. I'm not that smart. I don't have time for it. I don't want to do that.
I bet.
Right.
I love photography. I'm a photographer. That is my gift. I was sent from heaven and earth as a photographer. So now they call me, I am the official host photographer.
Again, like, I don't need to assume that things were photoshopped when it's literally just a picture of a cloud, as they'll show you in a minute.
Wow. I love that you take them to Office Max and they're like, how are you getting these pictures? They're probably
this
like,
one guy kept.
Brother, I don't think anybody is saying that.
How are you getting these pictures? They're probably
this
like.
one guy kept getting stolen. And some of them are very clear, like the one behind me.
Yes.
You know, that's Rex. He's a commander of the host. He's part of the Royal Guard, and all the Royal Guard look like lions.
Bro, she's got a whole little lore to tell us about this.
And
look, this is it. This is the picture of Rex, the Lord of Hosts or whatever. Rex, the heavenly commander that arrests demons. And as you can see, for the audio audience, it's literally just a cloud. There is nothing more to it. It's simply a cloud. As you can see, though, Rex is hauling off 30 demons and is holding a scroll in his hands and has a very pointy chin.
so
There he is.
there he is. He's holding a scroll with the face on it, people. Do you see the scroll with the face?
That is clear as day.
Honestly, knowing that this is just a cloud and she's got a wild imagination, I'm honestly trying to see what she's talking about. I'm not seeing a being holding a scroll with a face on it, genuinely. I'm trying. Is it sideways? What? I'm not seeing it. Rex, commander of the Royal Guard, it says.
See his hand? He's holding it in his hand.
Yes.
You can see the scroll. It's got a face, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he has two pupils. I'm talking about the host, Rex. Has two pupils. He has a long mustache. He has a beard with an eye on the end of it. He has eyes in his wings. He's one of the hosts. And I was allowed to take that picture.
I was allowed to take that picture, she says.
And I see him in Allah. Not like I sit down and have tea with him. I don't like tea anyway. I don't do things like that. But
boy, don't tell the British that you don't like tea. Somebody says, pareidolia in extremis. I would argue there has to be something there in the first place to be pareidolia. Like, there's literally nothing here. This is literally just a cloud. And actually, it does look like maybe it's been altered a little bit. But that, I go back to, if they were going to alter it, why didn't they make it look more realistic? Why didn't they make it look like literally anything? It looks altered because, in my mind, I'm not seeing how the clouds separated like this, but clouds form out in interesting ways, so I have no idea.
I have conversations that God allows me to have, or they bring me messages. This is one of the ones that he does that a lot. But he's holding a living scroll. Scrolls in heaven read themselves.
Oh, it's an actual living being? Why would scrolls read themselves? Can't they just create audiobooks of aforementioned scrolls?
You go to the scroll room in heaven, you pick a scroll, you open, it will read itself to you. Okay.
Wow, that's technology we don't have, huh?
Okay.
My earthly brain is like, because it's heaven, right? I mean,
it's heaven, people. I'm
yes.
talking about heaven. I'm not talking about this natural realm, okay?
Yes.
The earth is a shadow of heaven.
In other parts, she refers to it as the world we call heaven, because I think she believes that it's like literally a separate planet or something. In fact, I think she says that in this one. This is another clip from just a couple minutes earlier in this episode that we watched. Check this out. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally. So it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult. And you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
I have seen them hauling in the enemy, which are other demonic. I've seen them in chains being hauled away up to the courtroom of heaven. If I ever find that picture, you'll be the first people to get it. I'll show it.
What picture?
I have a picture of the demons in chains being hauled off.
What?
Yeah, and I'm sure we all know now what to expect with that picture.
How did you get that picture?
I took it.
God, she's saying it, Kelsey on the left, she's saying it like an adult says it to a child, right? How did you get that picture, really? You have a picture of a space alien, huh? How'd you get that picture?
On the earth.
Were you in a meeting or where were you?
I was at my home.
They're doing heaven stuff above her house, I guess.
So
when you command an army from heaven, that's
as Kat Kerr does.
What, in 2017 that started happening. The scroll for the host was opened, and that was when we were allowed to be in the command the hosts.
Notice what she said there. In 2017 that happened, because that's when Trump took the presidency, 2017. She's a Trump theologist.
Yes.
And I did. And I started with 100. And that's what the father came and taught me in person how to do this. There is a protocol. Number one, you got to live holy, people, because they're not going to listen to anybody who's lying, cheating, stealing, going into evil or wickedness. That they won't not listen to you.
Well, here's my question. Does Kat Kerr know that she's lying, or is this delusion? I'll tell you this. It is at the very least absolutely a delusion. This is like textbook definition delusion. A fixed, unchanging belief that is provably false, that is not believed by like the rest of the world, or something to that effect. This is very clearly a delusion, right?
Yeah. The one who walks righteously and who loves God, who obeys God. When you command the army, the more you send them, the more he sends you. Because the whole purpose for them is to come and fight on our behalf.
Yeah.
The hosts, right.
And they're not going to go kill somebody because you don't like them. They're not going to do that. They fight spiritual battles against the demonic who are trying to attack you, or they do a lot of warfare on your behalf. And some in the beginning, when they call me the Pink King.
The hosts call her the Pink King.
Not because I call myself that, but the Bible says, know ye not. Jesus said, know ye not. This is the words of the Lord. That ye are kings, spiritual kings, and priests unto your God.
Amen.
Those are levels of authority and dominion that you operate in because of your righteousness, because of your right living, because of you honoring God, honoring the word, honoring the blood, his blood.
Anyway, that's Kat Kerr. Has completely lost the plot, or you know what, or just made the plot up entirely. And for some reason, gullible individuals started believing her. She is a prophet of God, a prophet of Trump, and is very, very respectable in this realm. Far and away more influential than me, like not even close. She's gigantic. She claims to know and text Donald Trump regularly. I don't know if that's true, but she says. She certainly has the connections necessary to get a hold of him. She knows people that know him personally, so there's that. Anyway, I'll be damned if I'm not entertained as hell by this. Tell me what you think in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. As most people know, Charlie Kirk died recently, which I absolutely abhor and condemn completely. Just want to put that on record. But that has led to an absolute psychosis on the right. An absolute psychosis. Listen to this voicemail left for a Michigan House representative.
I won't leave my name or number because I'm in fear of Lori. I'm afraid of her because I think she's evil.
Talking about the House member.
And she's mentally not fit to be in Congress. If President Trump wants the National Guard deployed because Gretchen Whitmer is a communist and hates America.
See, look, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to stop every minute or two. Gretchen Whitmer is not anywhere near a communist, not even close. Nor does she hate America. The governor of Michigan, this is absolutely, disconnected from reality entirely. I've come to the conclusion that these people, the MAGA extremists, do not live in the same realm as us. Fox News has created an alternate reality that they all live in and are convinced that Democrats are literally demons. When Trump dies, hopefully at a ripe old age of 103, in bed with family or whatever, hopefully the adult family and not the children. When that happens, of natural causes, God willing, we're still going to have a Fox News problem. And I'm coming around to the fact that he moved so fast and broke things to such a degree that there will be serious repercussions from the voter base. When Democrats take control again, in my opinion, I believe that Republicans are completely and totally. I believe that we're going to see something similar to the Spruchhammer courts in Germany after World War II, where practically every judge, practically every prosecutor and defense attorney and child and everybody was all part of the Nazi movement because Hitler cleared out the entire legal system and replaced it with his sycophants. And after World War II, there were Spruchhammer courts where every single adult had to fill out a questionnaire, 131 questions. I talked about it on my channel recently, my main channel. And it was stuff like, who did you help when all of this was going on? Who can back up your claims? When did you join the party? Was it pre-1937 or post-1937? Because after 1937 is basically a requirement. And they really dug through people's lives all the way through. And if you were not actively resisting against the Nazi party, then you were probably going to face repercussions for it. I believe we're going to see something similar in the United States. I believe that just like the Nazi party, the United States keeps really good records. And if records are destroyed, diary entries are going to be used to piece together who was a member of ICE at this time, who joined and at what point. And everybody all the way up and down the chain is going to face consequences for it, in my opinion. Might be tough to get to that point, says Haunted Shadows Legacy. If history is a guide, I don't believe so. I believe that that's going to happen sooner rather than later. Donald Trump is too conceited and full of himself to nominate an heir to the throne, and nobody could control it like Trump could. No one can control MAGA that way, except for Trump. Even if he did choose an heir to the throne and groom them, he would have to fully give up the mantle, fully give it up for it to actually take. And you know he's not going to do that. So in my opinion, we are going to see massive consequences, like the likes of which we've never seen in this country before. Pam Bondi, Elon Musk, Matt Walsh, all of them are, in my opinion. After Democrats take control, I believe that they are all. And, people worried about gerrymandering. I think that Republicans are worried about gerrymandering because they know how they are. Midterms will serve as a gauge for us to see just how these people are. And I have more to say on this subject, and I'm going to say it in another video on the FCC and Ted Cruz and stuff like that. But I believe that they are so that's one ray of sunshine. And you know what? They may try to erase all of this stuff. They may try to delete the ICE database. Keep a diary entry so that they can't get away with that. Keep diaries. Anyway, let's keep listening to this completely brainwashed fool who is almost certainly going to go through a Spruikhammer court at some point in the next 10 years.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
It's damn well they're going to be out. You tell this little ignorant that we'll vote her ugly butt right out and all her fake nails and everything.
I think she's talking about not Gretchen Whitmer, but the congressman.
I'm sick and tired of you people committing hate crimes against us.
What are they talking about? Hate crimes? What? What are you smoking? This is what I'm talking about. Different reality. And Fox News is responsible for this. They are responsible for this. And I believe everybody up and down the chain at Fox News is going to go through Spruikhammer courts as well for what they've done to this country. Completely destroyed it. Hollowed it out. This is unforgivable. And I will not stop until I see some kind of Spruikhammer court equivalent for everybody that participated in this.
You Democrats are evil. Go crawl up Satan's anus where you came out of, because you're going to live an eternal life in hell. Why do you hate us?
I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. Okay? Turn off Fox News. Please, I'm begging you. For your sanity. Nobody hates you, okay? Get a grip on reality. This is not happening. This is a delusion fed to you by Fox News. They call for Democrats to call for calm and lowering the temperature and all of that stuff. I've been doing that since I started YouTube, okay? I'm a pacifist. I've never believed in fighting or war or whatever as an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Before Trump, okay? I started YouTube before Donald Trump came along. And I have always believed in pacifism, peacefully finding solutions to problems. These people are completely gone because of Fox News. They're convinced that I am violent, that you are violent, and that you hate them or whatever. They are completely gone. And I don't believe that there's any solving this anymore. I don't believe there's any fixing this short of Spruikhammer courts. That's it. That's what we have to do.
You hate God. You hate America. I pray that God protects us against you. You are ugly from the inside out, and you're evil. You're full of hate. Why don't you leave us alone, you ignorant? Get the out of our country, you traitor!
I'm telling you, man, different realities. Literally, none of this applies to anybody that I have ever heard of. Okay, nobody that I know hates God. I don't hate God as an atheist. I don't hate God. I don't give a fuck about God. I want to move on with my life and live it the way that I want to live it, and you can live it the way you want to. I'm not trying to impede your ability to go to church or whatever. I don't give a fuck. I don't hate MAGA people. I don't hate anything. We all just want to live our lives and do our thing. I'm telling you, man, their heads are fried.
Go to hell! You're not going to get your legislation passed. We're going to vote you out. No bitch!
In all seriousness, this is absurd, but this is the degree of rage that has been instilled in these people by Fox News. And if this is not incitement to violence, what Fox News has done to these people, I don't know what is, honestly.
That's about what you've done to us, you stupid fool. And go ahead, mock me all you want.
Well, ma'am.
I'm only recording this and screaming in it. I know I sound like a lunatic. I'm a Democrat. That's what the Democrats sound like.
It is literally what the Republican sounds like right now. What Democrat do you think is screaming at people about being Satan's anus or whatever?
You guys go ahead and do all your crappy shit against us and think we're just going to lay down and take it.
Do what? Do what? What happened to you? What do you think the Democrats are doing right now? Do you know that Tyler Robinson, dude who took a shot at Charlie Kirk, it was just released that there were no ties to left-wing groups. No ties to left-wing groups, none. This woman has been fed insanity, liquid insanity by Fox News for years, decades. How do we come back from this? We don't. My channel is no longer trying to reach these people. My main channel is still trying to reach Jehovah's Witnesses. It's still trying to reach Mormons and Scientologists and whoever else. My Fireside channel is no longer trying to reach these people. They're gone. That's it. Their minds are fried. I am now talking to you. I am now trying to give hope, trying to give an honest assessment of where we are going to be in the future. And I believe in the next 10 years, we're going to be in a significantly better place than we are now. But it's going to take Spruikhammer courts.
We know you're not going to be able to cheat on the votes like you have been since 2020.
Who the f*** was the president in 2020? Who was the president? How could Democrats have possibly cheated on the vote? It didn't happen. And the fact that Trump won in 2024 should be even more evidence that there was no cheating going on. But the logic does not pierce their thick skulls because they've had a barrier of nonsensical trash built up around it by Fox News for so long.
And Gretchen Whitmer is just a piece of shit. She's lying. She's evil.
How? Where'd you get that? What did she do? Who told you that?
Every Democrat is going to rot in hell. I guarantee you that. And you are a real ignorant girl. That's what you are, a girl.
Anyway, the point is that these people's heads are fried. And I'm no longer trying to work with them or talk to them or convert them or whatever. I think it's over. I talked about this at length, how Germany came back after the Nazi scourge appeared, how they erased that and corrected course. And the answer was Spruikhammer courts, Nuremberg trials for the arch criminals, and shame, deep shame, embarrassment at what they had just done, and fear of being imprisoned if they take part in this ever again. So they just shut their mouths. They didn't say anything about being Nazis anymore after they lost the war. And their children grew up in a world where Nazis were accurately, correctly viewed as evil. And then in 1963 to 1967, there was a movement of young people who asked some tough questions about their parents' past. Their parents didn't like it, and it split up families. They didn't talk to their parents ever again, some of them. And as they took over the economy and the teaching jobs and everything else in the 60s, there was a big push to teach the Nazi past in schools. And their children grew up hearing about how evil Nazism was. So by the time their children got a little bit older, got out of school, say the 80s or 90s, things had completely turned around. We don't change people's minds to get out of this type of situation. There was a period of time where maybe we could have done that. That's not how we handle this. We handle this by shaming the extremists to make them feel embarrassed about believing this stuff and making them not want to spread it to more people, basically, and letting them slowly, age out, die of old age, of natural causes, just die out. And the younger people come in, aren't brainwashed, and start to take over the country as time goes on. That's how we birth our way out of it. That's how we do it. And Spruikhammer courts are going to play a large part in that, in my opinion. Anyway, insane. Tell me what you think in the comments.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com.
I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Joel Webbin. He is I'm comfortable calling him a neo-Nazi. Like, there are different wings of the Republican Party right now, and he fits most cleanly into the neo-Nazi wing. Not the white supremacist one, not the Zionist one, but the neo-Nazi one. Listen to what he said recently.
If you're a Christian white parent who loves the Lord and loves your children, that you need to have the talk.
He's a pastor.
The talk that we're referencing is is the talk that takes your children according to their maturity at the proper time, the appropriate time, and says there are certain parts of town that you cannot go, and there are certain people that you cannot be around.
Yep.
Right. If there's someone who is Black in our church, and they've been in our church, and we know them, and they love the Lord Jesus Christ, great. We're not talking about that person, right. But we're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers, and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're Black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Them's the facts. And it is actually...
Those are not the facts, first of all. And second, he's trying to instruct his congregation, his audience of millions, to judge people based on their skin. He is trying to instill racism. He's trying to stoke racism in people. What purpose does this serve? How does this make society better? For you to try to make your children afraid of Black people. How does that make anything better? Unreasonably afraid of Black people, by the way. What situation are you even talking about where you would be in the middle of a crowd of all Black people anyway? When does that ever happen? And I'm sure you notice at the beginning of this, he said, there are certain people that we shouldn't hang around. Pretty clear what he's saying, right? We have fallen pretty hard. I haven't seen racism like this brazen and blatant and open in maybe ever. I mean, not this specifically, but this moment in history in my life. I haven't seen it this open and brazen in my life. Usually they say it behind your back, or they'll say it quietly in a smaller setting. You hear it circulating around the school or whatever. But to comfortably come out as a public figure and say shit like this, not to mention Forgiato Blow's recent song. I mean, I already did a video on this, so I'm not going to do another one. But this song right here.
Whoa, we need a big tall tree and a short piece of rope. Hang them up high at sundown. Leave them swinging so the folks all know you don't mess around in our town.
That is fucking sick, right? That attitude was stoked and encouraged and built up by this guy and people like him. Vile, evil, racist, with absolutely no point behind it but to hurt other people, and that is it.
Failure of your parental duty. White parents, please hear me. If you teach your children growing up, if you lie to them and say all people and all races of people in our country are the same, they are not. You are actually depriving your child of factual, truthful information that could save their life.
Like, what circumstance do you think these children would need to be saved from, and could be saved by you telling them Black people are dangerous and evil and should be avoided? Absolutely disgusting shit, dude. Evil human being. Really. I don't know how else to frame this or how to interpret this. Not even close to the first time he said it, though. Again, this guy has millions of followers. He's not a nobody. He created a whole dating platform for Christians to date each other without having to deal with all that pesky race stuff. I'm sure it's obvious by now that he's opposed to interracial marriage, but if I need to drive that final nail into the coffin, his counterpart, his friend, his colleague, Doug Wilson, that works with him all the time, says interracial marriage is dangerous and bad and should be reconsidered, basically. Interracial marriage is where we are now. Interracial marriage. Listen to this one.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
When we moved to Texas, I needed to get a new cardiologist. And so my wife, she does a lot of this for me because before we had kids, she was an RN. And she knows a lot more than I do. I let her read those books. She read some medical books. Yeah.
They're laughing, but he's 100% serious. He allowed her to read those books. And I'll show you in a minute him saying he tells his wife which books she's allowed to read. This is not a joke.
So she's doing the research and looking at these things, and she shows me two doctors, both with this within the same practice, same company, hospital, and and saying, do you like one over the other? And one was a young white dude and one was a young black dude. And I said, I prefer the young white dude. And this is why. The reason why is not because I'm white, but because we currently live in a historical moment in the West, and particularly in these United States, where I know that both of these guys could be perfectly qualified. But I also know that if there's a chance that one of them was not qualified and was given a free pass, it'd be the black guy.
That's nonsense, actually. It would be the white guy that got the free pass. The black guy had to work way harder to get to where he was. Trust me, DEI does not hire the black person over the white person. It is DEI or affirmative action or whatever was an attempt to make it so that white people did not unfairly and undeservedly take positions that were better, that had more qualified black candidates. That was the point of DEI and affirmative action. If you see a black person in a position, they are there because they succeeded gloriously. You see a white person in that position, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I've seen a lot of dummies that are white in the medical field. Look at RFK. He's not even in the medical field. He pretends to be. Tons and tons and tons of people who are dummies. But trust me, breaking into a field as a black person or even as a woman or whatever is an uphill battle. Way more difficult than being white. And he has to know that, right? He has to know that. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally, so it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult, and you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
I know that young white guy, there's no way he got a free pass.
He lives in another reality. Completely different reality than us. Here's another clip from this dude. I mean, let's just hit all of the racist clips that he's laid down over the years. And these are all recent, by the way. These are in the past 18 months, all of them.
Like, I walk around my neighborhood, and it's not that there are different shades of, white and brown. Who cares?
Who cares? Right, exactly. Why are you even paying any attention?
No, like full, straight up Hindu garb at our neighborhood swimming pool.
What, people wear different clothing than you?
That my daughter is asking, I'm trying to explain. She's like, what, like, and I don't even know what country I'm in my own neighborhood. I don't know where I am. It's, the number of, when we go on a family walk, the number of Pakistani, Hindu, all these different.
Why did you name Pakistani? That's a race. That's an ethnicity. What does that have to do with literally anything? And Hindu is obviously tied to India. I doubt they're even Hindu religiously, or I doubt he has any way to know that they're religiously Hindu. He's looking at their clothing and making a determination about where they probably lived or came from based on that clothing. That's pure, unadulterated racism.
Not just ethnicities, but religions with visible religious outfits.
Then why'd you say Pakistani?
And the same thing, like when we go to Costco, I'm like, where am I? And so like it's rare. Like we'll go on a family walk, and every now and then we'll pass by, a white family that's a man and a woman and has more than one kid. And
brother, what? Come on, really? You can't be serious here. Something like 80% of the U.S. is white, isn't it? Hang on, let me see. The vast majority of minority groups, like racial minorities, ethnic minorities, live in cities. Most of them are not in rural areas. White alone, not Hispanic or Latino, about 62%. White alone or in combination with other races, 71%. Hispanic or Latino of any race, which can include white, 18.7%. And you're telling me that you very rarely pass a white person with a family? Please.
And every time I see it, I'm like, I don't want to be this way.
Then don't be this way. Are you telling me you see what's wrong with it? You seeing how it's evil?
But I feel like this small sense of relief. Like, I see you. I'm glad you're one of my neighbors. Because at the end of the day, again, it's not about whiteness. But at the end of the day, if things get rough, I don't know if my Hindu neighbor is going to fight to save the lives of my children.
If things get rough, how would things get rough? And what do you mean they wouldn't fight for your children? Why wouldn't they fight for your children? You mean if there's a fire or something and they have to like get in your house to save the kid? Of course they f***ing would. Why would you think they wouldn't? Or do you mean when things get rough like a race war starts? Which is exactly what he's stoking, by the way. Is that what you mean? The coming race war that you are trying to make a thing? You don't know if they defend you in that? This guy is a bottomless pit of disgusting shit to say. Just absolutely evil. And I've said this a couple of times already in these videos this week, but the divide is too big. I'm not making content for MAGA to try to deconvert anymore. I would love it if a MAGA person was listening and thought through what I was saying, but I don't believe that it's going to make a difference for MAGA people. And I am now talking to people on the left. People like this will face accountability. Give it some time. They will. There was a massive movement in the 1930s, 20s, and 30s in Germany against Jews. It wasn't just Nazis. Jews were very unpopular at the time because of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion propaganda document that released in 1902, and a bunch of conspiracies that came along and blamed everything on them. Even in the mid-1800s, Jews were to blame for a ton of stuff, even though they weren't actually to blame for any of that. They were being blamed for it. We don't really have that same thing in America where immigrants have been an eternal scapegoat by everybody that way in the United States for like 100 years. They've been the eternal scapegoat for like the right. But even that, it's been a small subset of the right until recently, and now it's a big subset. It's basically everybody on the right now. Germany had a hard time coming back from what they came back from because anti-Semitic sentiment was so widespread. It's not like that here. We are the enemy. We, like anybody to the left of hunting immigrants for sport, is the enemy here. And I believe that as a result, it's going to completely flip sooner rather than later. Anyway, this dude's just vile and disgusting and evil. I really don't see any way out aside from Spruikhammer courts or new Nuremberg trials, basically. Not like military tribunals, but courts that determine your degree of culpability in what happened in the 2020s in the United States. We'll see. Tell me what you think in the comments.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com.
I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Joel Webbin. He is in the neo-Nazi sector of the Republican Party, of that belief system or whatever. He's also a Christian nationalist and wrote a new Christian nationalist constitution and things like that. He's very, very influential in the administration, okay? Listen to what he had to say recently.
There are certain books that I've just had to say, hey, I don't know if this is a bad book, but I don't have time to read it. And so you're not going to read it either.
Talking about his wife. I just want to give you an introduction to the dude.
We'll read it together. I remember recently my wife had a book and I saw her reading it on the couch. And it was about paedobaptism. And I said, no, we're not doing that yet. We will become paedobaptists when I'm ready. But my wife's not going to be a paedobaptist for 3 years before I am. And I don't have time to read it right now. I know the arguments will be great. I will agree and disagree. I'm not sure which arguments are better. But for the time being, this is what I'm persuaded of. And you're not going to outpace me. And that's not.
So he's saying he tells his wife which books she is allowed to read. That is psychotic. I just want you to know who we're dealing with here, okay? Now, there's a guy named Kevin Roberts. I'm going to come back to Joel Webbin in a second because he's going to outline how this forced church attendance thing works in this video. Let me just establish the forced church attendance thing first. This is Kevin Roberts, leader of the Heritage Foundation, one of the main writers of Project 2025. You remember this little ditty from him?
faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
The writer of Project 2025. Now, as it happens, Project 2025 has a bit in there about how they're going to force church attendance. And somebody has been tracking Project 2025 completion on this website, project2025.observer, and we're 47% through. 47%. There were 6 objectives with U.S. aid, and they were all accomplished. Cut the budget of U.S. aid, rescind U.S. aid policies that address climate change and help countries transition away from fossil fuels, prohibit U.S. aid from funding sexual reproductive health and reproductive rights and gender equality programs. It's all been completed. U.S. aid objectives are complete. The White House, we had 13 objectives. Issue an executive order to reshape the U.S. Global Change Research Program, USGCRP. Use the Congressional Review Act to undo Biden-era final rulemakings. Require regulatory analysis and OIRA review of the historically independent agencies. Clear out NSC. Replace all essential detainees with staff aligned to the new president's priorities. All this stuff is completed. There's one in-progress agenda item for the White House. Cut off government contracts to entities that enforce a woke agenda. Department of State, 10 objectives. We've got withdraw from the World Health Organization, completed. Withdraw from the United Nations Human Rights Council, completed. Withdraw funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency, complete. Reinstate the Mexico City policy banning aid to groups that even communicate about abortion services, complete. In progress. Freeze allocation of resources, foreign aid disbursements, and hiring, recruiting decisions. Court order partially blocked it. It's in the process right now, but it's blocked. Strengthen relations with Saudi Arabia, not started yet. And one of the items in this list is forced church attendance. So what would that look like? Our old buddy, Joel I'm a Nazi Webben, will explain it for us.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
God appoints some kind of ruler who is
Donald Trump,
unapologetically Christian.
Well, okay, close enough.
And he comes in with a sword and says, I'm sorry, but lawlessness and wickedness will not be tolerated anymore.
I mean, Trump did say that, right? And sent the military in to police U.S. cities.
And he doesn't force conversions, just for the record, because that's another one of the objections that's just ill-founded. He doesn't go around forcing conversions, but instead what he does is he forces external morality. He doesn't force a change of heart. Only the gospel can do that. But what a king can do is he can say, whether you're regenerate or not, you're going to pretend.
Okay, I'm not sure how this, he said this is an objection. He doesn't force conversion. How do you think, like, how's that different from forcing people to pretend? Obviously, I didn't expect anybody to try to force me to love Jesus. That would be a thought crime and super easy to hide. I expected the problem to be that they would try to force me to go to church, which is what he's describing. You will pretend.
You're at least going to pretend to be Christian. They're not free thinkers. They're not courageous. They're not intelligent. They're men, and men must be governed. And if they must be governed, then our prayer as Christians is that they would be governed in the right direction, at least, for the good of the church.
For the good of the church. That's on the list. They intend to make us pick a church and be on the member rolls of that church. Are they going to do that? I don't know. It's a tall order. It would be hard to enforce and everything. I'm not convinced it's going to happen, but it's on the list. And they're 47% of the way through the list, and we are only like 7 months in, or 8 or 9 or 10 months in or something. I'll tell you what it looked like in Germany. Not that this is like a valid comparison. I'm just saying like this is an example of how it worked. The state and the church were not separate in Germany. They didn't have a precedent for that. The United States is the first example of a separation of church and state on this scale in human history. In Germany, they were inextricably linked, and the churches had people's records. You know, you go down to the courthouse to get your birth certificate today. That's not how it was in Germany. Birth certificates were saved at the churches. And 95% of Germany was Christian. 3.5% were believe in God, quote unquote. And 1.5% were I don't believe in God. So that 95%, they were members of the church in the sense that they were tithe payers. Dahlem Church, the home church of Martin Niemöller, the dude who wrote the poem, first they came for the communists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a communist, then the socialists, and then the trade, so on and so forth. He led the Dahlem Church, and it had somewhere in the vicinity of 2,000 to 3,000 weekly attending members, but about 12,000 tithe payers. So more than likely, they would force you to pay tithing to the church, to a local church. That's probably what it would look like, actually. Be a tithe payer. And it would probably be state-approved churches, if I had to guess. Again, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. Probably not. But they're certainly trying to push us that way, right? I think if there was enforced church attendance or enforced church membership, there'd be a lot of pushback from neo-Nazis because there's a pretty significant subset of pagan neo-Nazis in the U.S. Anyway, I felt obligated to back up what I said. This is 100% real. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally, so it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult, and you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that. Just to give you a slightly more formed out idea of who this guy is, listen to this one.
We're degenerates. We're not even close to we're degenerates. The Constitution is not suited for governing degenerates.
The Constitution was intentionally, specifically designed to govern degenerates. People who want to live their lives the way that they want to live them, as long as it's not affecting others negatively. That's what it was written for. So you have it exactly reversed. Has this guy ever read the Constitution? Okay, you know what? Since he's talking about, like, the Constitution, why don't we just take a quick gander at his Christian nationalist Constitution? This is what he wants to replace the Constitution with. Article 1, the source of truth. We affirm that the Bible is God's word, breathed out by him as the only sufficient, certain, inerrant, infallible, necessary, and final authority for all saving knowledge, faith, and obedience. We deny that true beliefs, good character, or good conduct can be dictated by any authority other than God's revelation. Article 2, Orthodox Christian faith. We affirm that nations are commanded to honor God by officially affirming the Orthodox Christian faith as historically and universally defined and affirmed in the Orthodox creeds. Again, they want to replace this, or replace the Constitution with this in government. Article 3, standard of justice. We affirm God's word is authoritative on everything on which to which it speaks, and we affirm that God's word speaks abundantly regarding the nature and importance of civil government and justice. We affirm that God's moral law is enduring and binding on all people throughout all time. So I guess we're talking Old Testament law then, not New Testament law, including civil authorities and nations, and that it is summarily comprehended in the Ten Commandments. What about the other 603? So you think it's bad to eat pork and to wear cotton and linen blends then? Why just the first 10? There were 613 in that list. We deny that there's any objective standard by which to discern justice from injustice outside of God's revelation written on the heart, so on and so forth. Let's just jump down a little further. On nationalism and policy priorities, we affirm that nations possess an inviolable right to establish justice and safeguard the peace and prosperity of their own citizens. We affirm that implementing Christian nationalism in each nation will include the punishment of each nation's great evils and promote each nation's thriving. We affirm that the specific short-term priorities of Christian nationalism in the context of the United States are to call our nation in her laws formally to acknowledge the lordship of Christ, to declare solemn days of humility and repentance, to abolish abortion, to abolish porn, to define marriage as a covenant union of a biological male and a biological female, to de-weaponize the federal and state bureaucracies which target Christians for censorship and persecution. Oh, come on, dude. to secure our borders and defend against foreign invaders. I mean, this is pure unadulterated psychosis, dude. On the vocation and calling of Christian officials and legislators, the Great Commission, the uses of the law. We affirm that applying the core moral principle of each of the 10 commandments to a nation's laws, also known as general equity, reflects to the citizens both the perfect righteousness of God and our own sinfulness and shortcomings, secures civil orders by restraining evil through protecting the innocent from the wicked, and guides Christians into the good works that God has planned for them, and thus are an essential aspect of keeping the Great Commission in teaching all nations to obey everything Christ commanded. Jesus Christ. So they don't just want to force it on on the United States. They want to force it on other nations as well, right? Pretty clear. Insane. These people are insane. Again, I said this before. I'm going to say it again. I don't believe it's going to get anywhere near this point. I think that we're going to see new Spruchhammer and Nuremberg trials long before this. But you can bet the further they overreach, the more pushback there's going to be against them. You know, Kevin Roberts said it'll remain bloodless if the left allows it to. It's not going to, you're not going to undo the Constitution and think there won't be any repercussions for that. That's what they're doing right now. There will be repercussions from people for that. The United States, as children, we were trained to appreciate the Constitution from a very young age. It's too deeply instilled in people to let it go so quickly and easily, in my opinion. But we'll see. Tell me what you think in the comments. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.